Well, guys, it appears that we are live. Pray that we don't have any technical problems in the form of sabotage from Satan bots working somewhere on the internet. I pray that to you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, can please agree with that if you feel like it. When I ask you to agree, I only mean true believers and not people that serve the unclean spirits and like to run around telling people they're believers just to hurt people. Your days are about up. But I know you don't believe it. They didn't believe it in Sodom and Gomorrah either, nor in the time of Noah and the flood. So why should you believe it? It says it'll be like that. So I expect you won't believe it. So things are moving right ahead on schedule. You don't believe it. If you believed it, I'd be a little bit surprised and flabbergasted and go back and go through the scriptures deeply again to see where I made a mistake. But you don't. You don't believe you're going to lose. You believe you're going to win. And therefore, you're going to go about marrying and giving in marriage and building houses and working and investing and saving money, all for no good reason. But that's the way you're behaving. So it's a testimony to the scriptures, and it furthers my faith. And that I have a good, correct interpretation of the scriptures, because you're not repenting. Yeah, I know you don't understand things like that. I know that. Because you're Satan bots. You don't know what you're doing. If you read Hosea 6, 1 and 2, you'd know more about what you're doing. Because it says that Israel's punishment is for 2 days. And Peter tells us a day is like 1,000 years unto the Lord. So it would mean it's an inexact 2,000-year punishment. So it's not like Babylon captivity for 70 years. It's 2,000 years roughly. So it's got variance in there. That's how I interpret it. Okay? So it's about 2,000 years, because he said it's like, a day is like 1,000 years. If you want to go ahead and run it as, an exact, precise 2,000 years, then you should explain why he didn't just say 2,000 years. He had the option of writing it there, stating it that way, and he didn't. But as you can tell, time's about up. So what we're going to cover today is Trump restructuring the military, moving B-2 bombers around, and what's going on in America with the violence, and the fires are outrageous. They're outrageous in America. And, Maine, for instance, has 3 times the amount of fires it normally would get. I mean, I'll go through some fire stats with you. It's incredible. Okay, it's really incredible. And I've got the Satan bots following me on Telegram. I don't want to tell you how I know that, because I don't want to reveal it, but now they're afraid to come to YouTube, so go on the Telegram. So we'll have to do spiritual warfare on them going to Telegram, and then they'll go to my Twitter, and we'll do it over there, and, desperate. Hey, to all you people serving the unclean spirits, like, what do you call them? Satan, yay, ray, or Yehu, all that schmuck idiot stuff you do. How can we throw these so-called gods out of you? They're not gods. And yet, you can't throw the Holy Spirit out of us, which you darn well know is in us, because your little friends tell you that, and that's how they recognize who believers are. So you figure that one out, but you can't, because you're a loser. You're on the wrong side of this. And if you were smart, what you would do is throw Satan and his, league of other unclean spirits under the bus and go to Jehovah and live forever. But if you choose to go down with, Satan, whatever name you call these idiots, yay, ray, or Yehu, or whatever you call these schmucks, uh, then you're making a choice. You know they're losing. You know they're not God by us throwing the demons out of you. And now you know that you're doing it. So when it comes time to the judgment, you're going to be told you made a choice. You love the way of evil, and you went ahead and to serve it, trying to think you could overthrow God. And now you're going to spend trillions of years in the lake of fire. Not millions, not billions, many trillions, actually an infinite amount of years. It never ends. That's what you're doing. So think about that. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, my Heavenly Father, I ask you to put on the minds of all these people that serve the unclean spirits that come in here, what is involved with them spending eternity in the lake of fire. I pray that this gets impressed in their minds and doesn't go away, and that it would bring some to repentance, and they would turn against the unclean spirits and serve you and become one of us and live forever in heaven. And I ask this of you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you true believers can agree. Whenever I say agree, I mean the true believers. I'm not asking people that serve the unclean spirits to agree with me. How can two walk together unless they be agreed? So these jackasses probably start agreeing, thinking it's going to diminish the effectiveness of it, Now, I believe, okay, and my group of people believe, many hundreds, probably thousands, believe that the scriptures are going to come through, like Jeremiah 30:11. Jehovah will destroy all the nations he scattered the Israelites into, and I think it's Amos 8:8 or Amos 9:9. Says he scattered them to all the nations at that time. So your nations that you cling to build your faith. Oh, Satan's people are still in charge of all the nations and the cities and the counties and the states. Well, when they get destroyed, you're going to be shattered, aren't you? But, you don't understand. There's a time when it's too late and you're not going to be able to switch sides because your time's going to run out. And you'll be leaving your body behind, and you'll be going into the place with, when you read the parable of the poor man and the rich man, and they both died, and the rich man went to a place that was a hot, uncomfortable environment, and he asked Father Abraham to send the beggar over there, the guy that was a beggar, to dip his finger in water and put it on his tongue, and send him to his brothers to warn them, who were probably also nice Satan bots. But it don't work that way. Abraham said, if they don't believe the prophets, they're not going to believe if one comes back from the dead. You do this because you get the cheap parlor tricks out of it. You get money. Satan discriminates against believers heavily, and he discriminates against people that are not believers, but they're not with your demons either. So we know all that. You're not that bright. All your stupid secrets are out, okay? We know who the top Satanist people are. They're always transactional. You know what I mean. You didn't know that probably till you started listening to me. Because schmucko demons don't tell you these things. But you never had a chance of rising to the head of the class because you're not a transactional schmuck. You didn't mutilate yourself. Okay? It's hilarious how stupid Satan's kingdom is, and yet you relish it. He can't heal. So what did he do? He created a lousy, stinking medical system, and you go in there and you take great pleasure that the doctors and them are going to treat you better and all that. You're going to get the right doctor, and maybe you get to live a decade and 10 or so years more than most people do. You don't understand what a joke that is. It's not even a drop in the bucket. And you don't even know what the pleasures are coming. You don't know nothing, you know. Xi Jinping and Putin were overheard having a discussion about immortality based on organ replacement. What a bunch of schmucks. And these are world leaders that your idiot God has appointed. These are morons. Morons, okay? Incompetent nincompoops, but transactional. You know what I mean? So there, you may not know what I mean. We know more about what your God does, who's not a God, than you do. You know that we do. We know things you don't know. Yeah, we do. Hang around, you'll find out. But consider repenting and throwing that schmuck under the bus. He's worthy of it. He's leading you down a false path. Look at me. I preach to his servants, to your schmuck phony God servants, and here I am. What kind of God is that? He's a punk. I know what he really looks like. You don't. I saw him and what he really looks like. You see him and he disguises his appearance. When Yeshua rose from the dead, he was walking with some disciples, and they didn't know who he was because he disguised his appearance, and he switched to who he was. Okay, your schmucks do that. Maybe you don't know that, but we know things about them you don't know. So he makes himself look really cool, okay? What he looks like is an 80-something-year-old man, drawn-in cheeks, chalky colored skin, salt and pepper, greasy, yucky-looking hair that comes down to the shoulders. Okay, an old, busted-up old fart is what he looks like, a very unhealthy one. I don't know his exact height, but he's thin, and he was wearing a thick, like probably at least a half-inch thick, quarter-inch dead bare minimum, probably more, of a smock thing. It had an opening at the neck that came down several inches, and it just went down below the knees, okay? I believe the idiot had sandals on, and it was a dirty old rag, like a really coarse-looking fabric. That's what the jackass wears, and that's what he looks like. His hands look old like mine. Yeah, I know he disguises his appearance to you. And you think, that's what he really looks like. And the others disguise their appearance. They don't look, they're broken up. They're rejects, and you serve them. And they're taking you down. So where else are you going to go on the internet and hear somebody witness to the people that are false believers serving the unclean spirits? Where does that go on? Nowhere. How about that? Don't you realize your day is up now? 10 years ago, did you hear this? What about in the 60s and 70s? You didn't hear it. What about in the 1700s? Did you hear it? What about in the 1400s? Did you hear it? No. Now you hear it. Did you hear it when the apostles were running around? Oh, I think so. I think so. What about in the scriptures where they were burning their magic books? Those were jackasses serving you that repented to live forever. You're dumb as the day is long. It's over. Your time is up. Don't you see it? You might only have days left. If even that, I don't know. We don't know the day or the hour, but your time is so short. And you want to cling to these people that are going to take you to the lake of fire. Boy, are you dumb. You're really dumb. And you got your parlor tricks with these schmucks. Come on. Turn against him, serve God. Or don't turn against him. Just forget about him and serve God. He can't hurt you. Look at me. Look what I do. He can't hurt you. He can't do anything to you. Okay? When you're with God, then it's up to God what happens to you, not him. And that's it. The people that go to the churches, they're not the real McCoy. It says in the scriptures, many press they push to get into the kingdom of God. But it says, broad and wide is the road to destruction, and many find it. Straight and narrow is the path, and a puny amount of people find it. To say it's a small amount is an understatement. It's even less than that. It's very, very, very small. Okay? You're preaching to the rejects, and you're getting off on it. Oh, occasionally you get a few real believers in there. I know that. And you snare them, but man, you're going to be paying for that forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. It never ends. Never ends. And you'll be there with your schmuck demons. Your Yehu, Ray Ray, Yay Yay, and Boo Boo, Baba, Boo Boo, whatever idiot freaking names your schmuck demons take. Take all the names they want. It doesn't mean a thing. You can take any name you want to. You can call yourself Donald J. Trump if you want to. What's going to happen to you? Nothing. If you start going around saying, I'm Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States, well, then you'll have problems. But if you just start calling yourself Donald J. Trump, what are you going to get? Does your schmuck leader call himself Jehovah? Or Yeshua HaMashiach? No, he's afraid to. He's afraid to. Don't you think it would get him more mileage with hurting people if he did that? Sure it would. But he can't. He's scared. He's scared of people like me, what we can do to him in his kingdom. You're serving a dead horse, okay? You're just waiting for the flies and the maggots, that's all. But you have free will. If you want to doom yourself, go ahead. I can't stop you. What's that old expression? You could lead the horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So, is Trump restructuring the military? Yeah, he told the Pentagon to do it because he's trying to face the threat from China and Russia. He's not addressing Iran. But Trump is moving B-2 bombers. Now, people are saying he's moving them to Europe. No. He might stop them in Europe. He may take them from America to Ramstein or something and park them. Let the pilot, take a day off and, shower up and, take a few hours off or whatever. Then he services the plane, refuel it, and then he goes on. They're moving it to the Indo-Pacific region, likely Diego Garcia. And why are they moving it there? Because that gives them access to Asia, and it gives them China and Taiwan and North and South Korea. Remember, these B-2s fly long distances. They sleep on the plane. They could go over 24 hours, And it gives them access to Iran. Also Yemen, if they ever want to work up the guts to go back after Yemen. Yemen shot 3 missiles at us yesterday. They were all taken down or fell before they came to Israel. So, again, case in point, what Netanyahu is doing with the targeted assassinations, does it hurt the military when you do this? Yes. Is it substantial? Yeah, sort of, but is it definitive? Is it final? Never. Never. It doesn't end wars. That's not how you end the war. Blowing up the real estate doesn't end the wars. Blowing up the oil refineries and the bunkers of weapons and stuff, that helps the war. Blowing up and killing the leaders of the military and the government, that helps the war. Okay? It does. But it's not the cat's meow. What stops people like the Houthis from fighting? Well, one way to stop them is if they're laying in a hospital with their legs up in the air in casts, taking narcotics for pain and they can't get out of the bed. Okay, that'll stop them. Okay, so severe wounds will stop them. Okay, death will stop them. And seeing to it that they have no missiles or no weapons, that also stops them until they can acquire them. Taking out their real estate, and it's an add-on. It does something for sure, but it's backwards. Blowing up structures like electricity and ports and piers and power generators, refineries, and yeah, it helps if you're attacking the soldiers, which Netanyahu's not. The targeted assassinations helps if you're attacking the soldiers, which he's not. He doesn't want an end to this. You don't fight a war this way. Nobody in history does, ever. He created this approach to it. Why? It enables him to keep wars going, which enables him to stay out of jail, because he's got 3 criminal cases. And no, judge, I can't go to court. I got emergency with the war. So we have protesters last night in Tel Aviv. They're saying they want him to end the war and get the hostages back. Hamas is saying, we want to negotiate seriously. And Netanyahu said hogwash. And he's right at this point. All they want to do is drag it out. Now, Trump is pressuring Netanyahu to end it. So Netanyahu's got a conundrum in front of him, or he has what you might call an approach avoidance conflict. He wants to approach and make Trump happy, but he's got a conflict because if he does knock out Hamas, there's no war. He tried to fire the Attorney General. He can't. The Supreme Court of Israel said you can't. The Supreme Court knows Netanyahu's trying to become like a dictator, and so does the AG, and they're just gunning for him. So if there's a vote of no confidence, they're going to move on him if he loses. If he loses and he's not prime minister anymore, not only are they going to run his criminal cases post haste, they're going to start an independent investigation on what happened on October 7th, and that's his real problem. These 3 criminal cases, a lot of the media experts, whatever they're worth, saying one of those cases is probably not going to produce a conviction. That leaves him with 2. All 3 cases together give him 16 years. One case is 10 years, the other 2 or 3 each. I think if he ever did get convicted, he'd get 2 or 3 years. That's it. Maybe 4, probably 2 or 3. But a lot of fines would cost him a lot of money too, and he would lose face. He would be unable to hold any political office anymore. He could write books and go on speaking tours, and try to convince the Jewish community that he was persecuted by the liberals, and sell books and speaking engagements. He could do all sorts of junk like that, right? But he can't hold political office. And when they go after him on the October 7th, that's the end. That's the end. In my opinion, that's the end. Then they would put him away till he'd never get out of jail. He'd die in jail, or Israel would not have jails anymore. Something like that. So he's constantly spinning his wheels to keep us in wars. So now with Lebanon, they're giving an ultimatum to the Lebanese government, which America seems to be backing. And that's, you take the weapons away from Hezbollah or we're going to do it. And Trump is of this belief too, and conveying it in a rather similar action to Lebanon through his, stooges that he sends around. So they are going to have to take the weapons away from Hezbollah, or Israel will. Do I think they will take the weapons away from Hezbollah? No. A little bit maybe, but not really. Because half of the military in Lebanon are Shiites, and they probably are on the side of Hezbollah. So it could cause a civil war in Lebanon. It could cause other problems in Lebanon, and it may never go anywhere. Just the Lebanese government just keeps giving Israel and America lip service. Oh, we're going to get to it, we're going to get to it, we're going to do it, and maybe grab a cache of some bullets or grenades or something every now and then. But Israel basically runs operations in Lebanon daily, and they're going to start running bigger operations. I'm sure we have very good intel that we know where there are weapon storages in Hezbollah, and we'll just start bombing them all over Lebanon. We're not going to be restricting ourselves near the border. It's going to be all over the place. And that campaign probably takes 6 weeks, 8 weeks, because Netanyahu wants it drug out. Then he has Yemen to start a war with, Syria. He can invade Syria. He could start a fight with Iran. He could start a fight with Iraq and Syria. And he can keep the Hamas war going. So these protesters, are they just dumbbells? And they know that if we get the 20 hostages back and withdraw completely out of Gaza, that they're just going to rearm and come after us in maybe a few months or weeks. Yeah, they know that. Everybody in Israel is aware of that. Why are they still doing it? Well, a small amount of them just want their friends and family back, period. Okay, the hostages. But that's small. I think the rest of them realize that Netanyahu's doing perpetual war on Israel, and he's an enemy of Israel, in my opinion. And they want to get rid of him. So they're using the alibi story of the hostages because it plays better. So it doesn't make it look like they're that political. But that they're trying to get rid of him. And they know that he's horrible. That's what I think, in my opinion. And they want him out. And this is the way they're doing it. And the problem with that is, yeah, they're right about Netanyahu, I think, in my opinion, but they don't understand there's nobody to take his place at this point. The next people to run Israel are the two witnesses. Now, there might be a replacement for Netanyahu in the interim. That could happen. But just putting another Satan bot in place, like Bennett or Gantz, you're just changing demons. I mean, nothing great's going to happen. People are going to think it got better, and it's not. Nothing. So that's not a good idea. The government has to be gone. You can see how deteriorated it's gone to the point where Netanyahu gets away with this for years, and the people keep him in office. He has more control of the media than people think. Haaretz newspaper, which is online, he doesn't have control over them. The other papers are kind of afraid to open up and talk about what is really going on. Israel's the country that Satan is the most afraid of, because that's where Jehovah is going to run the world, through Israel. serving him. And that means that um, Israel, um, that means that his people are not running the countries anymore. And that's why Jehovah says he's going to destroy the nations in Jeremiah 30, verse 11. And also it's found in Jeremiah 46, verse 28. I'll read it to you. Some of you don't know these things. Jeremiah 46, verse 28. And this is unfulfilled. And you shouldn't deceive yourself and shrug this off. Fear thou not, O Yaakov, my servant, saith Jehovah, for I am with thee, for I will make a full end of the heathens, or the heathen nations. It is more or less heathen nations, I would interpret it, translate it as. Whither I have driven thee, but I will not make a full end of thee, but correct thee in measure. Yet I will not leave thee altogether or wholly unpunished. So Israel's being punished. What do we got? In October we must have 22 or 23 months of war now. You know, you don't think that's punishing? After the 12-day war with Iran, 53,000 claims for damages were filed with the government. The economy of Israel is not doing that good. It's not that bad either, because they keep getting all these massive contracts for military stuff usually. But the tourism is gone. Schmuck and Yahoo doesn't care about that. You see, a lot of the tourism is Satan bots, tremendous amount of it, but owned and controlled. But it's not the important Satan bots. Somebody that's got a tour company or a tour guide or has a hotel or stuff like that. They're not real important to Satan. So why are the B-2 bombers coming into the region? I think predominantly Iran. And it's a good move because if Russia or China tries to rise up over what happens in Iran, they could deploy from the Indo-Pacific region to attack China and Russia and stuff like that. So, and also Iran. It's a good location for it. So I know one of the survivalist people is saying they were going to Europe, but it doesn't seem to get supported. They are probably flying over Europe and they're probably stopping in Europe to get refueled. Why should they have to get aerial refueled when they could just land in a friendly place in Europe and refuel, and the pilots could take a break and get a meal and clean up and wash up and drink coffee and then get back on the plane. They could take an hour or two off, and that makes a big difference. They get out, they're in the fresh air, they walk around, they eat a hot meal, wash their face, maybe take a quick shower, go to the bathroom, and get back on the plane. It's not such a big, it's better for them than refueling, and it's not a combat run. It's just positioning. So, let me take a look at the live stream and make sure we got ourselves a live stream going. I think we probably do, or we'll probably be hearing about it, but let's take a quick look. And I got to put a post up in there. Looks like we got a good live stream. Well, we got sound and picture. And you can put questions up in the live stream if you want, and I'll try to answer them. Southern California is wild there. Yeah, you should be getting smoke there. I'm not sure, but I think so from all the fires. Ohio. Okay, I don't know where Youngstown is, but I know where Ohio is. What if you try hard not to sin? Well, if you're really his, you won't. Um, yeah, please post only in English. We had people in the days of the war starting early and previous skirmishes with Iran and Gaza. Somebody called me something. I don't know what it is, but okay. Um, they would come in here and they would curse us in different languages. Super smoky in Oregon. Ah, we're going to talk about that. Okay, I'm going to put a quick post up there if the iPad cooperates, which right now it's not. Let's see what's the problem. Should work now. There we go. Let me get this up. It'll be a few seconds. All right, let me put this up. And we're good. All right, being a Bible believing site, Old and New Testament, I'm going to do some praise and we'll get going. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Let's do some nice spiritual warfare with binding and loosing and agreeing. Okay. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, my heavenly Father Jehovah, I bind all the unclean spirits and people that serve them and worship them from embarking on making any problems or difficulties for any true believer and their families anywhere in the world. They shall not cause them distress, problems, turmoil, or issues with their families, neighbors, landlords, banks, credit bureaus, corporations, governments, employers, co-workers, businesses, and anything else, government officials. All such things in the past that cast null and void, no value, no effect forever, shall not move forward. They're dead and null. and no new ones shall start for 1 year continuously, and these commands are set in place irrevocably, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And I ask you, my Heavenly Father Jehovah, to loose on all the people that are true believers your Holy Spirit, the gifts of the Spirit, your shalom, peace, discernment, the gift of miracles, gift of prophecy, healing, all the gifts of the Spirit. And may they have peace and joy and calm and rest and contentment and patience is very important. And I ask this of you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and y'all can agree. Okay, let's go through some of the news, and then we're going to do a deep dive. Is America the daughter of Babylon? We'll go through the scriptures, because that's how you get there, and we'll make it very definitive, and it'll help you guys for a teaching tool, and help people that may have doubts about that. I have a prayer request for a girl named Jade, like Jade, the gemstone Jade. So a girl named Jade, the prayer request is that Jade gets her father back in her life. Jade gets her father back in her life is the prayer request. Okay. So my Heavenly Father Jehovah, I pray that Jade gets her father back in her life in a good way, and it works out well for both of them. And I ask this of you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you all can agree. So we'll make it more powerful that way, right? Okay. Kahlua lava fountains create tornado-like vortices, or like a vortex or a vortex, I guess it's a vortex, of volcanic ash. So I guess it's making the ash spin like this, which is probably hazardous to aircraft. Yeah, that's normal, all right. Okay, no, it's not. Millions of Americans have been urged to avoid drive-through lanes amidst concerns over high air pollution, but I believe it's smoke in the air. A drive-through lane is when you're in a commute in the morning or the evening, the late afternoon. They have a lane, usually it's the left lane, and if you've got, I don't know, it can vary, it's often two people in a car instead of one. You can get on there and avoid most of the traffic and haul. You can't break the speed limit, but you can run speed limit. So it could be dangerous because you might not see a car move over into that lane, or you might move out of the lane and somebody, because you want to get off the freeway and somebody doesn't notice you. So in other words, the air quality stinks and your visibility is diminished. Okay. That must be pretty bad, because I remember using these lanes like on Highway 101 in California, going to work in Silicon Valley over 40 years ago. But I don't ever remember visibility so bad that you couldn't use the lanes. I remember going on the coastal roads by the Pacific Ocean at night. I remember I had this kind of almost antique Corvette at the time. It was an older Corvette. And I was coming from a friend's house in the city who lived right at the Pacific Ocean. Had a beautiful view of the ocean, except at night, when you looked out the window, all you saw was a black hole. But during the day, it was great, you know. Now, when you live in a place like Sausalito or something, and you look out over the bay and you see San Francisco and other things, it's rather pretty because you see all the lights and everything. But when you look out from the coastal road there, I used to go jogging up and down that place. Uh, that was the place for jogging. I had an apartment, I think I was 2 blocks from the beach there, and this was the 70s. And I used to lift weights in the house, but I'd get up, I'd coffee up, and go run 3 miles in 24 minutes over there with that fresh ocean air. It was delightful. Then I'd come home and I'd plots down on the floor for a while and get up and do some weight work and then go to work with weights and stuff. So that was a nice place. But I remember driving not once, but quite a few times. And the headlights were okay, but the fog was so dense, I had to go slow. I mean, we're talking 25, 30 instead of hauling at 50 or whatever it was. I'd go pretty slow because I was afraid I couldn't see very far. And it was normally that way. That mist would come in. It was so heavy. Scary. I'd go pretty slow at night. During the day or in the morning when you had brightness, it wasn't that bad. But at night it was rough. It wasn't good. And then I had another car. I had different cars that I did that run with, and some of them were better than others, but it's not. I had a Porsche 911S, and that's got pretty superior headlights, and it was a 77, an older one, you know, and it would be better, but it didn't work. So you got to watch that stuff. When the visibility gets bad, it can be really dangerous. You wouldn't know. You could be driving and see that maybe there's a fender in the road, you know, a whole big fender or something, and you're not going to see it until you hit it or you're almost going to hit it, you know. I remember once I was driving on 101 and it was snowing back then. I think it was snowing that day. Now, when San Francisco gets snow, it's rare. And they usually get under an inch, like a half inch or something. But I remember being on Russian Hill with snow going down the hill. I don't know if you know what that is. That's the cable car street. And I knew enough to keep my wheels and tires the heck off the cable car tracks, or I go, "Eep." But I knew what I was doing a little bit, and it was a little scary. I didn't like it, and I wouldn't want to do that again. Well, then I was on the freeway later on, 101, going from San Francisco south on 101. And I had really good visibility, and there was a bumper in the road, a whole big chrome bumper, you know? And I was headed for the stinking thing, you know? And then somebody hit it or something, and it went flying. And I think the Lord fixed it so it didn't come through the windshield or something. But it was pretty hairy. I didn't hit it. You know, I think I might have bumped it. I don't remember, but it didn't hurt anything. But that could be scary stuff, you know. I also remember going in the Berkeley Hills at night one time, and they're curvy hills. And this was about 1970, I think. 71, maybe 70, I think. And I was running around down the hill, or going up the hill or down the hill, down, I think. And it was so bad, the fog, I had to use a flashlight that I had in the car, shining it. I was stopping the car and getting out of the car and using the flashlight to see where the heck the road went. I mean, you had like 5 feet of visibility or something. It was, you know, you can get pretty bad visibility from fog, but this is not fog. This is something else from smoke, and that's worse. So, okay, the National Weather Service issued air quality alerts in, here we go, Texas, Arizona, Oregon, Washington, and Montana on Wednesday. Today's Thursday. Now, this is not because the cows are passing gas and causing climate change, like some moron politicians say. No, this is from the fires. So you got it in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 states. Now, Montana and Washington are, well, Montana's not heavily populated. Washington has the SeaTac area where it's concentrated in a couple other places. Oregon, these are relatively well-populated states, except Montana. The warnings mean ground level ozone and particulate concentrations are forecast to reach dangerous levels in some areas. The pollution comes from drifting wildfire smoke. See, they use a word called particulate. A particulate or particulates is a fancy way of saying particles or pieces or chunks. Okay, chunks is not really good. Pieces. So it's pieces of the smoke or little particles of the smoke coming down. It could maybe cause skidding conditions too. I don't know, maybe not, but smoke could cause low friction on the road. Maybe if you mix it with water or something. I have no idea. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. This is from the fires. You better take these fires seriously. They're a birth pang. Not really a birth pang, but they are. They're a sign of what's happening in America. We're going to go through that in the scriptures. Maine, you know where that is? That's up north on the way to Canada on the East Coast, right? Okay. Maine has been almost triple the average number of wildfires this summer. That's not exactly normal. Why did I describe what Maine is? Because I think there's people in the United States that are so stupid that if I told them the Indian Ocean was in Indiana, they would say, sure. That's how bad some of the people are. If you're listening to me, that's not you. But I just brought it out anyway. Okay. Chinese Camp, California. If I'm going to guess, I think it's near Angels Camp. I've been there. A friend of mine moved there from San Francisco many, many years ago. This too was in the 70s. And needed help unloading his trailer, so I drove up there in the morning and helped him and then drove back. One of nearly 24 fires burning across Northern California on Wednesday, that's yesterday, scorched homes in a gold rush town settled in the 1850s by thousands of Chinese miners who had faced discrimination and were driven out of a nearby camp. Okay, they were picking on the Chinese. So anyway, this is a historical place. There's not a lot of people. I think 100 people live there. The people that live there probably worked in the tourism industry. That's what it was. But anyway, Montana last week got 60 new wildfires. It takes a few days to accumulate statistics. 60 last week in Montana. That's not counting the rest of the 48 states, or Alaska too, and well, 50 actually. Now, this is a little bit interesting. It's not seriously interesting. Some of the phony alarmists have been taking this story and running trash with the story. This is what's going on. Disruptions in crude oil supply to Nayara Energy. Let me explain what this is. Saudi Arabia and Iraq halt shipments to Nayara Energy. So this is affecting India. Nayara, Saudi Aramco and Iraq's state oil marketer, which is called SOMO, whatever the heck that stands for, stopped shipping crude oil to Nayara Energy refinery in western India following European Union sanctions imposed in July 2025. These sanctions targeted Nayara Energy due to its ownership by entities from the Russian Federation, including some guy, I don't know who it is. Typically, Nayara Energy receives around 2 million barrels of Iraqi crude oil and 1 million barrels of Saudi crude oil a month. That's significant. But no deliveries were made from either supplier in August this year. So far, they're not going to make it, apparently. This has led Nayara Energy to reduce one of its refineries, Vadinar refinery, capacity to 70 to 80% due to sourcing issues. The primary reason cited for the stoppage from Saudi Arabia is payment issues stemming from those EU sanctions, which have complicated financing transactions for Nayara. Okay, so they're trying to bow down to the Europeans who want sanctions on Russia. And India is affected because they need this oil. So now India has to go out and buy more crude oil. They really didn't have much of a way to go. They didn't want Europe dropping on them. Okay, Saudi Arabia is just using the delayed payment as an alibi, I think, or something like that. Jerusalem, okay, day of disruption began. Protesters urging a deal and an end to the Gaza war. Remember, I told you a lot of people here are waking up to Netanyahu. They protested at his house, and they're running around the streets protesting. They're not getting violent. Then I think they realized that Netanyahu is going to keep the war going forever. Unless Trump bears down on him, and then he's got to replace one war with another, which he'll do. And I think Trump did bear down on him, and I think he's responding to it the way Trump wants him to, which is end of the war in 2 or 3 weeks. Now, Trump is himself telling Hamas publicly that if you give back the hostages, and the war will end. Hamas is beginning to realize they're going to be getting slaughtered. Okay. The 70 boats coming down here from Tunisia and Spain and all that with these protesters and Greta, that ain't going to do any good. They got a problem. So it keeps going. I don't know what the Hamas is going to do yet, but I'll tell you what we did find out, that they're saying it's only about 800,000 civilians that were there in the Gaza City North area, and they got about 80, at best case, 80,000 out, 10%. 90% is still there, and Hamas is using various means of threatening them that they got to stay there. And Hamas, the civilians are complaining because they're being used as human shields. So Netanyahu's rather limited in what he could do with the civilians there. In other words, how do you use mortars, shoulder-fired rockets, artillery, bombs, and aircraft-fired missiles and rockets, and surface-to-surface missiles if you've got the civilians there? What if they only got 40,000 civilians there? It's a problem for Israel. What if they get 400,000 civilians to stay there? It's a bigger problem. So that's how Netanyahu appears to be dragging out the war. Is he the one responsible for this? No, but I think he knew it would happen. Our defense minister Katz told Hamas to surrender or see Gaza City leveled. They said they were open to discussing terms, and Netanyahu said it's a waste of time. They don't mean it. They just want to. They'll start negotiation, and they're going to say, we can't negotiate while you're attacking us. You got to stop attacking us, and we'll negotiate. That's all they want. And then what Netanyahu would say, give us all the hostages back, and we'll negotiate further. And they won't do that. So a lot of the people that are in Gaza City that are civilians are saying they're not going to flee again. They had it. So Netanyahu's got a problem here. Now we need to talk about gold prices because it's getting good. Oh yeah. Gold, I would say if gold today was 5,000 an ounce, it'd be understated. 10,000 an ounce, even maybe 8,000 an ounce is approaching something real. 12,000 an ounce, even maybe. Okay, let me go through this with you. Gold hit, gold an hour and a half ago or something like that was 35.42 an ounce, which is nicely over 35. And the high in the last, 12 or 24 hours was 35.78. Now that's good because it went up $78 over 35. See, what we wanted to do, or I would want it to do, is to keep climbing. So it hits 3,600 or something, so it doesn't drop back below the 3,500, So this looks pretty interesting. The next, resistance point will be 3,600, which is not a serious resistance point. And then it goes 37, 38. 4,000 is resistance point. For it to get over 4,000, I think there got to be a lot of smoke from, massive fires around the world, or, and war, and other problems. Could also do it, but there's got to be a lot of problems for it to get over 4,000. Now, it's not a big walk because you already hit 35.78, if it goes over 4,000, like really goes over, like it doesn't stay at 4,017 and then push under. Let's say it goes to 4,065 or something like that. Well, that means it's going to stay at 4,000. It's going to get intoxicating for people because they're going to start thinking, oh, it's going to go to 10, 12,000, and they're going to start speculating, and that's going to drive it up. It's going to be pretty interesting. Now, when you go to sell gold in the stores, the guy buying the gold is, like today, isn't going to want to pay you 45, 30 or something like that, or 35, 40 or whatever it was, 42. He's scared because it can dive. So he might tell you he'll pay you 34, 40. He wants $100 cushion in case it recedes because it hasn't stayed that high for long. And, that could happen. Or maybe he'll just take you down to 35 even and give himself, no, he's going to want more than a $40 edge. He's going to want to, maybe he'd go to, 34.80 or something. That's what they do. You got to be prepared for that. They're not going to give you the right price for the gold. We're talking about physical gold. They're scared. They're not trying to create some kind of, dangerous, dirty move. They're actually scared because the price could go back down, and then they're $100, $200 over market on gold an ounce, and then they got to sit on it or take a loss on the books, and they don't like that. So it's quite interesting. And I didn't finish telling you about silver. Okay. Encouraging. A little while ago, silver was $41.09, and the high in the last day or so was $41.54. So we're seeing silver start to go in the 40s, which is pretty interesting. It's a pretty good high for silver, I'll tell you right now. I think we'll see silver go 75, 100 easy. Because people aren't going to be able to afford to buy the gold if they're going to buy physical gold. Even if you buy something that's a quarter of an ounce, it's almost $900. So they'll buy silver. But you see, if silver goes to $80, you doubled your money. If gold goes to $7,000, you doubled your money. Which is easier? Well, so far, silver's been a very slow climber. It's been climbing, but very slowly. Let's say that things happen in the world and, gold goes to 4,600 or something like that. Well, that could really be enough to push silver to 100. It really could. A quick move to 4,600. The deal is the hard metal guys, the pawn shops, the coin dealers, those type of people. 4,600, they're going to want to pay you 44 maybe. They'll be scared. But when you go to buy it from them, they're going to want the full 46. It's wrecking the jewelry market, but that's just temporary because for the redemption and stuff. But it's wrecking it because, you go in and you want to buy a ring. Now, if you're going to buy a little thin ring for a woman where you have little prongs that hold a big stone, you're not putting a significant amount of gold in the ring. You probably use 14 karat gold, and instead of like in the old days having $50 worth of gold, you're going to have $250 worth of gold or something like that, right? That's not going to change that too much. But in terms of a more substantial ring or a necklace or a bracelet, I mean, the gold's too expensive. Most people aren't buying it anymore. I'll tell you what some of the people are doing. They have a thing called PVD, or is it PVP? I think it's D. It might be P. It's a very, very good coating on metal, 5 to 10 microns, and it lasts for quite a few years. So what they can do is they could coat stainless steel to make it look like platinum or yellow gold. They don't. White gold is more like a platinum. And I think they can do white gold too. That kind of thing. And it's an inexpensive process, and it lasts for quite a few years as long as it's not friction rubbing. So if you're going to put it on a bracelet like this, where the links rub against there, it's going to be a couple of years maybe, and you're going to wear the coating out. You got to watch what you put it on. So let's say you made yourself a pendant like this, and in the pendant it had precious stones, and you wore it around the necklace like a woman. Okay. So that pendant with the PVD coating or the PVP coating, whatever it is, would probably last for 10 years. And then you'd have to put a thin gold chain on there or some sort of synthetic fabric to hold it, or you could get a silver chain and have the thing look like white gold or something like that and make it match. They call it a PVP or PVD coating in silver. It makes it look like a white gold kind of thing. Platinum is a pretty distinctive looking thing. It is darker. Now dull platinum that's not polished looks like crap. But if you get a high polish on platinum, it's pretty nice. So what people do is they get that coating, and somebody looking at you across a room or something like that is going to think that it's real gold. Somebody across the table in a restaurant where the light's not so good is going to think it's real gold. Somebody knowledgeable that's talking with you out at the beach at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a bright day may not be able to tell it's not real gold because of the reflection, but somebody who knows the stuff and has had real gold will know it's not. Get an idea it's probably not real gold. So what they do, they take moissanite chips, little tiny chunks of moissanite. That's probably the waste product when they grind moissanite to make a big stone like 2 carats or 3 carats, and so they make little chips. Moissanite tests as a diamond, and it looks like a diamond. It looks like a perfect diamond. You're not going to be able to tell the difference, the naked eye. Even jewelers, maybe no jewelers. I've had jewelers look at moissanite ring I had with a loop more than once, and they think it's a real diamond, a perfect stone, flawless. Okay, so they're not going to pick it up. I mean, somebody that's really familiar with moissanite and diamonds might understand there's a little bit of a difference in the reflection. That would be under ideal conditions. and they probably wouldn't be sure unless they had a loop or a microscope. You can't really tell. Okay, it'll test in a tester as a diamond. You need a moissanite tester to detect it. So these stones now are cheap. So they embed hundreds of these little stones in whatever you're looking for. So they'll take a stainless steel chain, or you could use a silver chain if you wanted to. But that's going to be costly because your silver's running over $40 an ounce now, but not that costly. It's certainly not 3,500 an ounce. So they might get silver, and then they coat it with this PVP or PVD, and they make it into a yellow gold, let's say, right? Or a white gold, and then they put a few carats, a big chain, and they put a few carats of moissanite in there, maybe 6 or 8 carats, and the thing looks like you're a rapper, right? And it probably costs, I don't know, $1,000, $1,500, maybe $700 even, I don't know, for a big honking thing, and you wouldn't tell. I mean, you're not going to be, the thing's got stones embedded on it all over the place, just on the outside usually, and you're not going to be able to tell that it's not real gold on that. So I think a lot of these rappers that are running around are using this stuff now. You could get it on eBay, you could get it on Amazon. Amazon's prices are outrageous. You could get it at AliExpress, and independent stores, stuff like that. You could probably go, if you were in America in a big city, to a jeweler and commission something. Say, here, I'll want to buy your sterling silver chain, this one, and send it out and have it embedded with. I don't think that'll work. That would be very expensive because when you buy it, there's a factory that makes it, and the store buys 100 at a time or something like that. So it's coming from China, and you can also, for a little more money, substantially more, but nowhere near really expensive, you could get the lab-grown diamond chips instead of the moissanite, but they don't bother because the moissanite does the job just peachy. But you could get the lab-grown diamonds, Now, when you start getting the real diamonds with the certificates for all the stones, they give you, 1-inch thick pile of certificates or 2 inches. They try to bag you with a gold chain, a big heavy one. They try to get you for $250,000. And some of these idiots that are just gorged with money buy it, And if you go to sell it, you go back to the jeweler and you try to sell it to them, what are they going to give you? $35,000, $50,000. Why? Because they could probably go out and get one made themselves for $50,000. They might buy it from you if they know you and they want to be on your good side, and then they could sell it for maybe not $250, sell it for $180 because it's used, and make it. They make such huge profits. The jewelry industry is just full of, excessive price-hungry people that run the prices up way, way above what they should be. But the gold is killing this industry because I'm noticing now people don't want to buy these gold watches anymore. A heavy watch with a bracelet is going to have 6 or 8 ounces of gold in it. Now it's 18 karat, so it's 75% gold. But so it's a 4-ounce watch like a Rolex has 4 ounces of gold with the bracelet, a Rolex President. So it's really, it's 75% gold. So you got 3. So you got $10,000 roughly in gold metal in your Rolex. Okay. So, you're gonna, they're gonna want at least $18,000-$20,000 for the watch, right? See what I'm saying? Now I looked at there's a company called Quorum in the 70s. I'm old, they used to sell these watches, and the businessmen loved them. They took a $20 double eagle gold piece from America, and they used, I believe, a laser to cut it in half, and I don't know what they did. They took some gold out of there, I guess, uh, and they put a movement in there, a quartz movement. The only way I could think of them doing it was hollowing out part of the coin, and then they would put a piece of glass over it with two hands for the time, and it worked. And I worked for a company, and the vice president had one of those he used to wear. They generally came on a leather strap, but they did make them with a gold strap too, a gold bracelet. Mesh gold, I believe it was. And these were, back then, $3,500, 4,000, maybe not even. They weren't that much money. Maybe that was without the bracelet. I don't remember. But people would buy them, and that was, So today, what are they selling them for? Well, they're so old, I don't know who would want to buy one, because the movement could be bad, and then if you got to replace it and you got to send it back to Corum, they're going to probably charge you $1,500 to $2,500 at least to replace the movement. If something's wrong with the guts inside, they're going to just tell you they're going to take the movement, throw it out, and put a new one in. You might get away with $1,500. You might get stuck for $2,500. They're expensive. So they're selling them now for about $7,000 on eBay. I went to look. I was curious. And you're getting, no, I think they're less. But anyway, you're getting at least an ounce, well, almost an ounce of gold in there. And they're not selling. I mean, nobody's buying those things. You can't. See, the thing in the 70s was to have small, thin watches. A company named Piaget made beautiful watches. I always wanted to get one of those Corum $20 ones when I was in the world making a lot of money, but you can't read the watch at night. It has black hands against the gold during the day, but at night there's no glow in the dark. You don't know what time it is. So I never really. It's a dress watch. You put it on to go out for dinner, to go to an event or something like that. It's not a real watch that you wear all the time. But people did. I know people in business would wear them all the time, but maybe they had a clock by the bed that showed the time. I don't know. But you got Piaget made these very thin watches in all gold. They were beautiful. They had so many different kinds. And they sell them now. They sell them basically for about the weight of the gold plus $1,000. These old ones. And they don't sell. They're digital. They're battery watches, and they're old. Automatic watches could still work, but the gold prices are driving the watch prices and the jewelry prices so high that it's killing their industry. It is. And the synthetic diamonds, the lab-grown diamonds and the moissanites have wrecked them. The CZ, the cheap stuff Walmart would sell, that never looked like a diamond. It glittered around, but it looked like junk. That was costume jewelry, and everybody knew it. But the moissanite's not costume jewelry. It actually, on the Moore scale, it's over a 9. It's really up there. And the lab-grown diamonds have the same Moore scale as a natural diamond. So, and they're cheap, but they're inflating the prices of those. But the problem is these Chinese labs bought the equipment and were making lab-grown diamonds, and there's no market for it anymore. So what I think they're doing is when they make a lab-grown diamond and they cut it and polish it, they are supposed to take this machine and in very, very small letters, maybe 128th of an inch or something like that, or 256. You don't see it without a loop, a magnifier. They put on there that it's a lab-grown diamond, maybe with a serial number or whatever they do, right? So if a jeweler wants to buy it, he looks at it, and if he sees lab-grown, he knows he's probably not going to buy it at any price. Give you $10 or something. He doesn't want it. He can buy them. He can buy them new for a heck of a lot less than you can. That's the problem. It's just a crooked industry. It's all crooks, and it's falling apart. And that's what they do. So the Chinese are probably selling lab-grown diamonds without putting that mark on it in microscopic letters. So people think they're buying a natural diamond and they're buying a lab-grown diamond because you can't tell the difference. So the whole diamond industry with De Beers is wrecked. De Beers probably has an inventory that's big enough to fill 5 or 6 40-foot containers top to bottom. There's no diamond shortage. It's just crap. The thing is, by the late 1800s, I think most of the good stones, the emeralds, rubies, sapphires, other stones, and diamonds, most of the good ones have been taken and used up. There was a lot of really good ones in 13, 14, 15, 1600s. The days of the pirates and stuff like that. They had really good diamonds. And emeralds and sapphires and rubies, big honking ones and stuff like that. But they're gone. They're sitting in museums, they're sitting in billionaire houses, and people couldn't possibly afford them. There's people that go buy rings for $4 or $5 million. They, crazy. The Chinese got this thing going on with jade. They think jade is healthy, and they have their most valuable jade is kind of like a creamy green, like a jade green with heavy cream mixed into it, like a palish green. It's a very nice looking thing. And a little thing like that, like the size of a penny, and maybe a stick is 3 or 4 pennies. Oh, they'll charge you $50,000, $100,000 for that. It's a joke. I'll bet you I could. I'm gonna look for this. I'll bet you I could find a synthetic jade that looks the same, and it's probably $10. If I find it, I'll buy one. I'll buy one and put it in. I'll have it in a stainless steel or a silver little ring or something, and see if they sell it. I'll bet you it exists. They make emeralds and sapphires and rubies that are. They seem to be able to tell the difference. I don't know why. Maybe they put microscopic writing in them. I don't know, but I don't know if they have lab grown. I mean, but this has been a crooked industry, and it deserves to be busted up and die. Diamonds are a terrible investment. Terrible, terrible. They're overstated. I think a fair price for a natural grown 2-carat diamond without the ring, cut and polished, is $300-400, $500. Not 11,000 or 7,000. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's just stupid, because you could get a lab-grown diamond that's going to be a few $100. That's the same thing. Why do you need the natural? It's got no use value. It's, maybe for an investment, but that's one of the most stupid investments you could ever make. What's a good investment? Gold bullion and silver bullion. You want the coins, that's fine. Don't buy any coin with numismatic value, that's a waste. You can get bars, you can get, rounds. It's not a coin. It just looks like a coin. And that's your investment. You can carry your stuff around with you. The stones are, you know, you buy the stone and they tell you it's a certain quality diamond, an S1 or something like that, right? Then you go to sell the stone and they say, oh no, it's not an S1, it's really this. And they reduce it by 1 or 2 levels. And then you fight with them, and then you show them the certificate and they don't care. So the difference is maybe, from $7,000 it goes to $4,300 because it's 2 conditions. It's just the jewelry industry is a bunch of fraudster, thieves, con men. That's all it is. They're like used car dealers, except worse. Worse. Without regulation. Car dealers got licenses and stuff like that. Does a jewelry store get licensed? Gets licensed the same as a shirt store or a shoe store. No licenses. And they're just crooks. They're just crooks. And you go into the stores and they sell these jewelry items to people on credit. And they polish the stones, they keep them clean. They got special lights in the counters to make them glimmer. The store has special lights. And the people are really polished, and they put the ring or whatever you're buying in a really nice box. And they give you credit and stuff like that. They're not telling you they're making a markup of, 500%. I mean, dead bare bones minimum 300%. Sometimes 600-700%. I think 400-500% is where at least 300%. So they'll sell you the rich people $250,000 something, and they're in at $80,000. Or maybe they'll be in at $100,000. You make $150,000. They get rich fast if they can get the business. People are afraid to trust them. They need a reputation, so people go to big stores. Tiffany's, places like that, Cartier. They trust them because they give you you really get what you pay for. But anyway, enough. Let's go through the daughter of Babylon. Let me check the live stream, and then we'll go through the daughter of Babylon, and we'll get it. All right, let's see. Somebody's saying everyone double tap the screen. Oh, and give me a like. Yeah, it'd be nice if you gave me a like. Okay, we'll go through some scriptures in Daughter of Babylon, and I'll show you, and you'll be able to decide, is it America or not America? That's the purpose of this. So let me get us into the basic scriptures, which is Jeremiah 50 and 51. Okay, so what does it say? It says, declare you, I'm in verse 2, let's go to verse 1. The word that Jehovah spake against Babylon. Now it doesn't say Babylon, it says Babel. And the word Babel is a Hebrew word that means confusion, Babel. It means confusion. Now that's what the original Babylon, where Iraq is today, was called in the Bible, Babel, not Babylon. They messed the translation up. And I think the reason they're messing it up there is they're not trying to give you a more generic word that means confusion. They're trying to make you think this doesn't apply to modern day America. It applies to the old place, Babylon, that was where Iraq is today. That's what their purpose was. And against the land of the Chaldeans. The Chaldeans were soothsayers, were witches, fortune tellers, astrologers, not astronomers, astrologers, stuff like that lived in Babylon. Okay? And America's full of witches, chock full of them. By Jeremiah the prophet, and the word for prophet is Navi, which is prophet. Navim is prophets. So the two prophets would be Shtaim Nevim in Hebrew. Okay. Declare, Shtaim's two. Declare you among the nations and publish and set up a standard. Publish and conceal not, say, Babylon is taken. Bel. Now, Bel is one of the demon idols they worship there. Bel is confounded. Merodach, same thing, another demon idol, is broken in pieces. So the statue was broken. Her idols are confounded. Now, the word confounded is withered. It's not correctly translated on purpose, okay? It's ashamed, disappointed, dried up, withered, ashamed. It's busted up, I believe, is what you could say. Now, when the Chinese soldiers come into a place, are they going to destroy the idols? No, they have idols in China, the Buddhist stuff, right? Okay. No. With the Russians? No, they got idols in their Russian Orthodox churches, like the Catholics, I believe they got them. No, they don't do it. Who does it? The North Koreans? No, they're atheists. They don't care about idols. They don't mean anything to them. But who's going to break up idols? The Muslims. They're the ones that destroy the idols. For out of the north there cometh a heathen nation, or it says heathens, goyim, against her, which shall make her land desolate, and none shall dwell therein. They shall remove, they shall depart, both man and beast. Now, the word for beast is more like cattle or beef, a beast. It's chaya would be animal. So it's more like a beast word, like Gan Yeladim is a kindergarten. Gan chaya, or chayot, it's the plural for chaya, it's calling it like a garden for animals. It's a zoo. That's what it is. Okay. Now this gives us time indicators here in verse 4. In those days, okay, now let's break the words down, because I'm trying to help you with some timing at the same time. Those, and it's probably rather well translated, the word those. Let me get it without it moving around on me with stinking Apple products. It's got so many meanings. They, those, same. I would think it's in that time, those days, okay? The word for days should be yomim. Yeah, it's okay, it's days. All right. So, those days, I better check the Hebrew on that. There's such liars in English. Let me make sure it says days. So you never know with these crooks with the English. Where did it go? Okay, Hebrew, Old Testament, verse 4, 3, 4. Yomim. Okay, it's saying in days. It's not saying that. Okay, let's get it from the Hebrew a little bit. In days, they. days, probably like that time. Yeah. He declared, well, let me get back to English or we'll be here all day. Says the children of Israel shall come, they and the children of Judah together. Now, they're going to Israel, and this is the next great Exodus. So it happens right after the destruction. Give me a minute for a quick break. So that helps you a lot, because now you got something to look for, the destruction of the daughter of Babylon. Now, the destruction of the daughter of Babylon is going to precede the Exodus. But you'll get out where the other people won't. Now, you're also going to see, as you'll see in the scriptures, people leaving that are from other countries for fear of the sword. Now, fear of the sword can mean the nations attacking, and it could also mean Trump running them out. Could mean both. Probably nations attacking more so, but it could be both. And they've already started leaving, but not that many. And what we're going to see in a little bit is the fires in America are a really strong sign that this is coming. But let's go through it. They shall ask the way to Zion with their faces thitherward, saying, Come, and let us join ourselves to Jehovah in a perpetual covenant that shall not be forgotten. Let's check that word perpetual. That's a lousy crooks that translate it. It doesn't say perpetual, it says olam, the same exact word for everlasting. So it's saying an everlasting breed, an everlasting covenant, which means you need everlasting life for that, which we'll have. They're concealing it from you. They know it. Now, Satan and the demons don't educate their disciples about this, but they themselves have an idea about it, as evidenced by this translation being twisted in that way. Olam doesn't mean perpetual. It means off into the future, an indeterminate period of time. It's not perpetual. So why are they asking the 10 lost tribes, why are they asking the way to Zion? Because they woke up. The appearing of the sign of Son of Man in the clouds. And they got everlasting life. And he puts, when you read Jeremiah 31, it says, they shall all know me from the least to the greatest. And he puts the law in their heart and their inward parts. He gives them a heart of flesh. They're different. He pours the Spirit out on them first. Read Zechariah 12:10. You see him pouring the Spirit out right there. Then they want to come to Israel. Then they know their resting place. They know their home. Judah too. My people have been lost sheep. Their shepherds have caused them to go astray. They have turned them away on the mountains. They have gone from mountain to hill. They have forgotten their resting place. Now, there's 6.5 million known Jews, known Judah in America. In addition, there's Judah that's gotten lost, don't know they're Judah, they deny it, they change their names. And then comes the 10 tribes. Now, I think the North American Indians are part of the 10 tribes, not all of them, but part of them. That's about the same amount of Jews as there are in Israel. So this is obviously talking about America. All that found them have devoured them, and their adversaries said, we offend not, because they have sinned against Jehovah, the habitation of justice, even the Lord, the hope of their fathers. So that's the way they do in Israel. They have a fake Israel. Satan bought run Israel. That keeps Israel in sin. And they benefit. And they say, heck, nothing's going to happen to us because they sinned against Jehovah. And they snare the people to do that. Well, it doesn't work that way. They're idiots. Removed out of the midst of Babel and go forth out of the land of the Chaldeans, the witches, and be as the goats before the flock. It says in the next verse, verse 9, he will bring, for lo, I will raise and cause to come. So Jehovah does this. Come up against Babylon, an assembly of great heathen nations. Except the word great. Doesn't want to work. Apple products. Such crap. Apple products. So the word for great, I think it's, why doesn't this stupid piece of junk work? There it is. Got the whole, yeah, great, or, yeah, great heathens from the north country. Now that could be north of Israel, it could be north of America, probably north of Israel, Muslim countries. And they shall set themselves in an array against her. From thence she shall be taken, their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man, none shall return in vain. Okay. They're mad at America. First of all, the tariffs, sanctions, supporting Israel. The UAE said it's the end of the Abrahamic Accords if Israel annexes the West Bank. What they're saying is the Abrahamic Accords is a scam to lull you to sleep into thinking that we're going to be nice to you. But now you're going to annex the West Bank, and that means you want to stay in Israel forever. And we don't want that. We want Satan. We want you destroyed. We want to worship Satan, not your God. And that's what they're saying. The leaders of these countries are not Muslims. Are you kidding me? They know it's a scam. They don't believe it. They're Satanists. That's his chosen people. God's chosen people is Israel. Satan's chosen people is the Muslims. That's why they took over so much of Europe and other countries. Because Satan wanted it. Why does Satan like them? Because no other country wants to go around killing the Jews and wiping out Israel but them. The Catholics used to do the job. They occupied Jerusalem for many years in the Crusades and stuff like that. Okay. Because you were glad, because you rejoiced, O you destroyers of my thinking like bad trash. Because you were glad, because you rejoiced, O you destroyers of my heritage, because you are grown fat as the heifer at grass and bellow as bulls. Those are the people that hate Israel that run the government. The mother that bore you, that your mother shall be sore confounded. That was probably the demon that was in Babylon. It's represented by the Statue of Liberty, I think. Columbia Motion Pictures icon, the woman on top of the Capitol, that kind of thing. A graven image is a graven image. You don't have to get involved with them. That's just these stupid secrets. Worthless secrets. In verse 16, it's interesting. It says, cut off the sower. That's the one who seed plants. The sower from Babylon, or Babel, and him that handleth the sickle, the harvester. in the time of harvest, for fear of the oppressing sword. They shall turn everyone to his people, and they shall flee everyone to his land. It could be the Trump raids and all that, but it's probably more so the invaders. It could be both, but I think the emphasis would be on the invaders' oppressing sword. But let's break that down. Let's check the word fear. It's from and woe. Whoa, this is different. This is punim, it's face. It says, it really says face of the oppressing. Let's check that word. They twist this so bad. It could be the face of rage. It could be God's raging. Okay, anger. But then it says sword. Let's see if it's really means sword. Yeah. Yeah. And it could mean God bringing the sword that's scaring them. But the word face in there is not the word fear. Double check. Yeah, it could mean anger and stuff like that. Okay, that's interesting. Israel is a scattered sheep. The lions have driven him away. First, the king of Assyria would have devoured him, and last, this Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babel, hath broken his bones. So it talks about a Nebuchadnezzar, an oppressing leader, so to speak. It sounds like Trump, but it sounded like Biden and Obama also. Well, he keeps talking about Israel and the Jews. Well, how could it be the Vatican? 300 people live in the Vatican, no Jews. How could it be Mecca or Medina in Saudi Arabia? They don't have any Jews there. You get my point? And it goes into verse 19, and I will bring Israel again to his habitation, and he shall feed on Carmel and Bashan, and his soul shall be satisfied upon Mount Ephraim and Gilead. And then it goes on, and listen to this. In those days and in that time, saith the Lord, the lawlessness of Israel shall be sought, and there shall be none, and the sins of Judah, and they shall not be found. For I will pardon them whom I reserve. Okay? This helps you with timing. Because this is the redemption, the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man in the clouds, and we get everlasting life, and the lost tribes wake up. He pours the Spirit out on them first, and they don't have their sins anymore. And that's your redemption. How could he give you everlasting life if you're still in your sins? Okay. Now, verse 23 is a giveaway. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is Babylon become a desolation among the nations? The hammer of the whole earth. How could that be Saudi Arabia? That's a joke. How could it be the Vatican? Buddhists don't listen to them. What's that, 1 billion? Hindus don't listen to the Vatican, that's 1 billion. Catholics, another 1 billion that listens to the Vatican. 1 billion evangelical Christians and Pentecostal don't listen. Muslims don't, atheists don't, communists don't. It can't be the Vatican. It can't be the Muslims. It's America. Do the Buddhist countries listen to America? Yes. Do the Muslim countries listen to America? Yes. Do the Hindu countries listen to America? Yes. Do Christian countries, Catholic countries? Yes, yes, yes. It's America. It says, come against her from the utmost border. Well, Alaska wouldn't be an utmost border. And when you think about it, neither would Alaska. Alaska and Hawaii are not utmost borders. They're not borders. So it would have to be Canada or Mexico. Right? The word utmost. Let's check that word. It's min from. Oh, this stinking iPad. It keeps vanishing on me. I've got plenty of battery. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I've got a full battery. The word for border, cats, I think means end, not exactly border. Yeah, it could be border and end, or border, it could be The word utmost doesn't really appear. It says from border or end. Open her storehouses, that would probably be food, weapons, I guess. Maybe cars, vehicles, don't know. Cast her up as heaps and destroy her utterly. Let nothing of her be left. Slay all her bullocks. That is not the animals. That's like the police, things like that. Let them go down to the slaughter. Woe unto them, for their day is come. The time of their visitation. That's a bad thing when you get a visitation. The voice of them that flee and escape out of the land of Babel, to declare in Zion, so they're declaring it in Zion, it's the Israelites, the Judahites, and the true believers in Yeshua that are in Israel, to declare in Zion the vengeance of Jehovah, Elohim, the vengeance of his temple. So maybe the temple is already here when this happens, or maybe he's referencing the 70 AD temple, or Solomon's temple, I don't know. Solomon's temple is what he would be referencing, I guess. Not 70 AD. Because that's a Babylonian captivity. Call together, okay, so it's do unto her, for she hath been proud against Jehovah, against the Holy One of Israel. Well, Trump's making moves to have Israel's soldiers fight and get Gaza and then give it to him. And he wants to make a resort community out of it. It's our land. We used to have it. We gave it back to them because America wanted us to. Sick. So Trump's mocking God by having the Israeli soldiers fight and get wounded and killed to get the land back and give it to him for a real estate project. He's going to tell the Americans, look what I did, I got Gaza for you. Never happened, but this is what he plans on doing. Yet the average non-Satan bot America is going to benefit zero from this. It's just the multi-millionaire and billionaire friends of Trump and his family that are going to make money. Oh, you could work as a maid or a dishwasher there, that's for sure. Therefore shall her young men fall in the streets, and all her men of war shall be cut off in that day, saith Jehovah. It's to that day, probably the day of vengeance. Now, all the ones in the army are dead. Is it perhaps only those in the army in America that are dead? Maybe. It might just be those in America, or it might be those all around the world, I don't know. Behold, I am against thee, O thou most proud, saith the Lord God of hosts. I heard Trump the other day say, oh, China and Russia can't do nothing. We got the best military in the world. See? The most proud. For thy day is come, the time that I will visit thee. And the most proud shall stumble and fall, those are your Satan bots, and none shall raise him up, and I will, now listen to this, I will kindle a fire in his cities, and it shall devour or burn up or destroy all round about. Now, the word for cities, the word for fire is ash, I believe. I'll check. Yeah, it's fire. That's that's it. It's fire. The word for cities, 5892 a year, doesn't mean city. It's crooks. Oh, it could. It could actually. It could mean a town or an encampment. A guarded place. Now, seeing the fires devour all round about is what we're seeing with the wildfires burning around the cities and getting some of the cities. So you're at not the very beginning of this with the fires, but I don't think you're at the end of it. It's advanced beyond the very beginning anyway. How long it takes, I don't know. Thus saith Jehovah of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captive held them fast. They refused to let them go. That's Satan. Their Redeemer is strong. Jehovah of armies is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause, not plead, judge. That he may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babel. Well, they're pretty disquieted right now, but they ain't seen nothing yet. A sword is upon the Chaldeans, saith Jehovah, and upon the inhabitants of Babel, and upon her princes, and upon her wise men. A sword is upon the liars, all the politicians, and they shall dote. So they're going to get it by the sword. A sword is upon her mighty men. No, let's check that word. Strong men. I don't know what it means, military. They shall be dismayed. The sword is upon her horses, upon her chariots, upon all the mingled people, remember, that are in the midst of her. Mingled people. America's the melting pot. You got it? It's America. You don't got mingled people in Vatican. You got 300 Catholics living there. And in Mecca and Medina, you got Muslims living there. You don't have these mingled people. They shall become as women. A sword is upon her treasures, and they shall be robbed. A drought is upon her waters, and they shall be dried up. Well, you got about 27 states in drought alert conditions now. It's America. and they shall be dried up. For it is the land of graven images. I've covered that so many times with the graven images there. And they are mad upon her idols. Therefore, the wild beast of the desert with the wild beast of the islands shall dwell there, and the owls shall dwell therein. So the animals are going to live in America. They're going to live in the houses and the buildings or what's left of them. As God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof, saith the Lord, so shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. Now, I don't have a solid proof for this, but perhaps we can explain with this scripture the abundant fires in Canada, because he destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities. It doesn't say cities, it says neighbor, which is the Strong's number 7934. And I think it just means like the neighbor. Neighbor's a pretty decent translation for that. So, that might be Canada may get it for that reason. I don't know. I'm just giving you, for instance, maybe. I can't guarantee it, but it makes some sense. Because I can't justify all the fires easily in Canada at the same time, unless we take it this way. Behold, the people shall come from the north, and a great nation, and many kings shall be raised up from the coasts of the earth. So a lot of them are coming. They shall hold the bow and the lance. Okay. The king of Babel hath heard the report of them, and his hands waxed feeble. Anguish took hold of him, and pangs as of a woman in travail. I could easily see that applying to Trump. Behold, he shall come up like a lion from the swelling of Jordan unto the habitation of the strong, but will make them suddenly run away from her. And who is a chosen man that may appoint over her? For who is like me, and who will appoint me the time? And who is that shepherd that will stand before me? Okay. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. At the noise of the taking of Babel, the earth is moved, and the cry is heard among the nations. So that ought to be pretty interesting how that happens. Whoops. 51. Thus saith Jeremiah 51, verse 1. Behold, I will raise up against Babel and against them that dwell in the midst of them that rise up against me a destroying wind. Well, you're seeing that destroying wind. What did we just talk about today? The ash, uh, one of the volcanoes. The ash was spinning around like a tornado, which would be probably damaging to air traffic, right? Okay, that's normal to you, not to me. Continuing whirlwind of the Lord brings hurricanes, storms, winds, tornadoes, stuff like this, right? I will raise up against Babel and against them that dwell in the midst of them that rise up against me a destroying wind. And will send unto Babel fanners that shall fan her, that shall empty her land. For in the day of trouble, that's the day, they shall be against her round about. Now they're going to loot her. I don't know what they take. Do they take the aircraft, the cars? I don't know. I don't know. Against him that bendeth the arm. Okay, let's keep going. Thus the slain shall fall in the land of the Chaldeans, and they that are thrust through in her streets. So I imagine it's going to be soldiers and terrorists and people that hate America running through the streets killing. And they'll probably be raping and plundering and all kinds of bad stuff. For Israel hath not been forsaken, nor Judah of his God, of the Lord of hosts, though their land was filled with sin against the Holy One of Israel. You see, he bound their ears, he stuffed up their ears, closed their eyes, lest they turn to him and get punished. So they had the 2,000-year punishment. But he stopped them from finding him. So that's why he forgives the sin, and the punishment's over. We're just about there. Any day, I guess. Any day, not any month or year. Flee out of the midst of Babel, and deliver everyone his soul. Be not cut off in her lawlessness, for this is the time of the Lord's vengeance. So that makes me think it's the day of vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. It may not be the day of vengeance. It may precede the day of vengeance. I'm not sure. Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand, that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore the nations are mad. Now, where do the nations meet? In New York, at the UN. That's where they meet. There's no other place like it. In America, they meet. Babylon is suddenly taken and destroyed. Howl for her. Take balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed. Now this is when it hits. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, in other words, forget about her, and let us go every man to his own country, for her judgment reacheth unto heaven, and is lifted up even to the skies. Some are going to get out of there. The ones that are really from other countries that just came there to work, I guess. Come and let us declare in Zion the work of Jehovah our God. See, they come to Israel and they tell what happened. So I don't think the internet's working. Why would we need them to tell us what's happening if the internet was working in America? Now, it might be working in other parts of the world, but it doesn't appear to be working in America, does it? No. That's how I'm looking at it. Then it talks about hath raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes. That's from the Median Empire. He wants to destroy it because it is the vengeance of the Lord, the vengeance of his temple. So that's saying it again. Set up the standard upon the walls of Babylon. Make the watch strong. Now, what are the setting up the standards and the watch on the walls? The watch on the walls, the only walls he got to watch are the walls between Mexico and America. And he's got the military there already watching. And the ICE, Customs and Immigration. O thou that dwellest upon many waters, abundant in treasure, dwell on many waters. Does Mecca or Medina dwell on many waters in the deserts of Saudi Arabia? Of course not. Does the Vatican dwell on many waters? Of course not. Does it dwell on the Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, Gulf of Mexico? Does it have 8,000 rivers and about that many lakes, including the Great Lakes that are like oceans or seas? Yeah, it does. O thou that dwellest upon many waters, abundant in treasure, that's America, thy end is come, and the measure of thy covetousness, that's America. And the Lord of hosts sworn by himself, saying, surely I will fill thee with men as with caterpillars, and they shall lift up a shout against thee. The men are the sleeper agents, in my opinion, okay? They'll lift up a shout. Let's check that word, shout. Yeah, shout. Decent translation, shout. In 51:16 it says, when he uttereth his voice, there is a multitude of waters in the heavens, and he causeth the vapor to ascend from the ends of the earth. He maketh lightnings with rain, and bringeth forth the wind out of his treasures. So, he controls all this stuff, and we're getting, I told you the other day, 10,000 lightning strikes on Tuesday just in the state of California. Dry lightning, with thunder, without rain, causing wildfires. Come on, guys, this stuff's not regular. It's not normal. Let alone with what's everything's happening to Israel at the same time. Speaking of Israel, he says, "Thou art my." Well, I'll get the previous verse. The portion of Yaakov, that's the 12 tribes, is not like them, for he is the former of all things, and is the rod of his inheritance. Jehovah of hosts is his name. Thou art my battle axe and weapon of war, for with thee shall I break in pieces the nations, the heathen nations, and with thee do I destroy kingdoms. We've already seen this in part now, but not like the way it's going to be after redemption with everlasting life. And with thee will I break in pieces the horse and his rider, and I'll break in pieces the chariot and his rider. Break in pieces the man and the woman. Break in pieces old and young. Break in pieces the young man and the maid. You know, we're conquering these people. That's getting our land back. That he promised us by covenant in Genesis 15 from the Euphrates to the Nile, which is about 100 times bigger than what we have now. Set you up a standard in the land, blow the trumpet among the nations, prepare the nations against her, call together against her the kingdoms of Arat, Mini, and Ashkenaz. Those are the stand countries near Russia. A captain against her, appoint a captain against her. The horses to come up and the rough caterpillars, which I think could be rough caterpillars to eat the crops, or it could be sleeper agents or something. I don't know for sure. Prepare against her the nations with the kings of the earth, the kings of the Medes, the captains thereof, and all the rulers thereof, and all the land of his dominion. And it says, the mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. This happened to the Jews during the Holocaust, too. They just get so scared they don't fight. Some Jews did fight, but most didn't. And it says, they say here in verse 31, they show the king of Babylon, that would be the president of the U.S., that his city, Washington, D.C., is taken at one end. He's not just the king of the city, he's the king of the nation. And it goes on in verse 33, the daughter of Babylon, that's America, is like a threshing floor. It's time to thresh her, yet a little while, and the time of her harvest shall come. The harvest is they separate the tares from the wheat, like in Matthew 13. They burn the tares up, they bind them in bundles and burn them. Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, hath devoured me, he hath crushed me, he hath made me an empty vessel, he has swallowed me up like a dragon, he hath filled his belly with my delicates, he hath cast me out. This is the Babylonian Nebuchadnezzar destroying the temple, taking the temple artifacts back to Babylon and stuff like that, which the Israelites did get back. The violence done to me and to my flesh be upon Babylon, shall the inhabitants of Zion say, and my blood upon the inhabitants of Chaldea, shall Jerusalem say. So I guess they figured out that America with Biden and Netanyahu worked out October 7th and other tragedies after that. I imagine they worked all that out, and they realize it here. Therefore thus saith Jehovah, behold, I will plead thy cause, and not plead, I will judge, and take vengeance for thee, and I will dry up her sea, and make her springs dry. Well, this is 27 states have drought or drought alert. And Babylon, or Babel really, shall become heaps, a dwelling place for dragons, and astonishment, and a hissing without an inhabitant. Her cities are a desolation, a dry land, and wilderness, a land wherein no man dwelleth, neither any son of man pass thereof. So it talks about her cities and her land, a wilderness type land. Okay? So it's not just Washington, D.C. or New York, it's the whole place. Cities in the plural. I will punish Bel and Babel, and I will bring forth out of his mouth that which he hath swallowed up, and the nations shall not flow together any more unto him. The nations flow together unto him in the UN building. That's pretty much it. You could also say they put the embassies in Washington, D.C. Yeah, you can say both. Yea, the wall of Babel shall fall. That's the Mexico-America wall. There is no other wall. And he that swallowed it up. So it says, and I will bring forth out of his mouth that which he hath swallowed up. Well, that could mean Satan bots are going to get delivered to serving Yeshua. My people, go you out of the midst of her, and deliver you every man his soul from the fierce anger of Jehovah. And lest your heart faint, and you fear for the rumor that shall be heard in the land. A rumor shall both come 1 year, and after that in another year shall come a rumor. And violence in the land. You got violence in the land. You got all these shootings going on every day, just about mass shootings practically every day. It's going to probably get worse. Violence in the land, ruler against ruler. Now you got ruler against ruler. The judges keep overturning Trump, and it might get into a governor fighting America, I don't know. Therefore, behold, I think you got it now, though, with the judges fighting against Trump. Therefore, behold, the days come that I will do judgment upon the graven images of Babel and her whole land. All her slain shall fall in the midst of her. Then the heaven and the earth and all that is therein shall sing for Babylon, for the spoilers shall come unto her from the north, saith the Lord. So they sing. They're so happy, the angels, that Babylon's finally gone. That's America, I'm telling you. And then I get the people here, Trump 2028. Oh my gosh. As Babel hath caused the slain of Israel to fall. Think October 7th, amongst other battles, but think of that one. So at Babel shall fall the slain of all the earth. You that have escaped the sword, go away, stand not still. Remember Jehovah afar off, and let Jerusalem come into your mind. We are confounded because we have heard reproach. Shame hath covered our faces. For strangers are come into the sanctuary of the Lord's house. Well, this could be the next temple, and they're doing it. It could be, or it's a throwback to the one that was in the old days when there was. So I don't know which one it is. It could be both. Wherefore, behold, the days come, saith Jehovah, that I will do judgment upon the graven images, though all her land, through all her land, the wounded shall groan. He says, though Babylon shall mount up to heaven, and though she should fortify the height of her strength, yet from me shall spoilers come unto her, saith Jehovah. Now that could be your millions of sleeper agents there now, we don't know. Okay. A sound of a cry come from Babel, and a great destruction from the land of the Chaldeans, because the Lord hath spoiled Babel and destroyed out of her the great voice, when her waves do roar like great waters, do roar like great waters, a noise of their voice is uttered. Because the spoilers come upon her, even upon Babel, and her mighty men taken, every one of their bows is broken for, for Jehovah Elohim, rather. No, Jehovah El, I'm sorry, it says Jehovah El, of recompenses. That makes me think of the Shanat recompenses, shall surely requite. And I will make drunken her princes and her wise men, her captains, her rulers, her mighty men, and all and they shall sleep a perpetual sleep, and not wake, saith Jehovah. Thus saith Jehovah of hosts, the broad walls of Babylon, I believe that can mean the long walls, that's the Mexico walls, 2,000 or so miles, shall be utterly broken, and her high gates shall be burned with fire, and the people shall labor in vain, and the folk in the fire, and they shall be weary. So they're going to push in the Mexico walls and loot, plunder, pillage. Probably a lot of invaders from other countries will come up through Mexico. Maybe they come in from the utmost place. Maybe it's Mexico. I don't think so. But maybe. And then thou shalt say, thou hast spoken against this place to cut it off, that none shall remain in it, neither man nor beast, but that it shall be desolate forever. Now, you know the old Babylon, Iraq, it ain't desolate. There's man, there's beast, there's tourist attractions. It's all sorts of stuff. It ain't that. It's America. And it's just the daughter of Babylon. And it shall be when thou hast made an end of reading this book, that thou shalt bind a stone to it and cast it into the midst of the Euphrates, and thou shalt say, thus shall Babylon sink, and shall not rise from the evil that I will bring upon her, and they shall be weary thus far, the word of Jeremiah. So that's it, they get weary, okay? Let me check the live stream. So it is America. I gave you a number of evidence. Now the temple, okay. Let me just cover the temple with you real quick, because you're going to start thinking, oh, the temple's there. They got to build the temple. That's going to take 5 years or whatever, right? Nope. The next temple doesn't get built, and it's not New Jerusalem I'm talking about. Ezekiel 37, verse 21. And I will call for a sword against him throughout all my mountains, saith Jehovah Elohim. Oh, I'm in 38. Sorry, I need to be in 37. Sorry, I got the wrong verse here. Let me see if this dumb iPad will let me back up a verse. No, it stinks. Oh, it did work. Okay. The last 3 verses of Ezekiel 37. So it's actually 26. Moreover, I will make a covenant of shalom. That should be what that says. Yeah, and it does. Peace. With them. Meaning Israel. Now, if you're a true believer in Yeshua, you're in Israel. The real Israel. And all Israel shall be saved. That's in Romans 11. A covenant of peace with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them. The word for everlasting is olam, everlasting, like everlasting life. And I will place, now that word place is Natan, place. Remember that. I will place them where? In Israel, next great Exodus. Read Ezekiel 20, starting in verse 33 to the end. And there's other places like Jeremiah 23, Jeremiah 16 and 17. And multiply them, that means lots of children, and will set, no, it doesn't say set, it's the same Natan word, I will place. So it says, and they're confusing you. They twisted the interpretation of the word on purpose to confuse you. What it really says is Natan. So it says, and we'll translate Natan the same way they did 7 words earlier, or 6 words, whatever, and will place my sanctuary, my temple, in the midst of them forevermore. The midst is in the middle, that's Jerusalem. So he's saying that that's the middle of Israel. So he's saying he's going to place the temple there. Okay, that doesn't sound like we built it. Let's keep reading. My tabernacle also shall be with them. Well, when you read 2 Maccabees 2, chapter 2, Jeremiah hid the actual tabernacle with the Ark of the Covenant and the altar of incense in Mount Nebo, the mountain that Moses died on, where he saw the promised land but didn't go in. And he put it in a cave and sealed it up until God shows mercy to Israel. So it's waiting there for us. Of course, only the Levites could schlep it back. My tabernacle also shall be with them. Now maybe this tabernacle goes to the wilderness, when the people go into the wilderness before they come to Israel, because the tabernacle is portable. And maybe the glory of God of Israel goes there with them. I don't know. I'm just taking, guesses, educated guesses, you might say, but that's as far as they go. My tabernacle also shall be with them. Yea, I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Now, and the Goyim, the heathen, shall know that Ani Yehovah, I Yehovah, do sanctify. Okay, that's not the right translation. They twisted it. Kadosh. Now, what does Kadosh mean? Kadosh, Kadoshim? Kadosh, it means holy. Okay, so it's saying, Ani Yehovah, I Yehovah, holy Israel. So you would say, make holy Israel, when my sanctuary, when my temple shall be in the midst of them forevermore. Forevermore is not correctly translated. It's for olam, everlasting. Okay? There you have it. So this next temple comes down from heaven. It's not built by the rabbis. And it's not New Jerusalem. Believe me, it's not New Jerusalem. I know the difference quite well. So that is, of course, never brought out by any of these big shot preachers and churches. They don't teach you any of this. They don't want you to know it. So, boy, we had a lot of bad posting in here today. People come in here putting up trash because they're weirdos. Someone's saying I'm still living there. Yeah, I'm still living in Israel. What do you want me to be? It's not easy living here, but I live here. Okay. So I'm just trying to help you guys understand that we are one, maybe our group, let's call it a group. We're on Twitter, we're on Telegram, and here. We're probably the only ones that are watching the birth pangs and the signs and know what we're looking for. And the other people are just going about their business like it says, It'll be like the days of Noah, where only 8 got saved. The rest of them, which is probably millions, just went about their business. And then when the rain came down, they woke up. But by the time it started raining, the Lord closed the door on the ark with Noah and the others inside, with the animals and all that, and then they just sat there and waited for the flotation, and the others drowned. Got it? I guess you got it. Okay. The fish didn't drown. How do you drown a fish? You can't drown fish. Did you drown the turtles? I don't know. Maybe the turtles got drowned. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. I think turtles could float pretty long time. I don't know what happened to turtles. I don't know. Probably they got dead. Not fish. So they don't tell you that the Grand Canyon is probably evidence of a flood, do they? No. People tell you how beautiful things are. Oh, Yosemite is so beautiful, and this is so beautiful, and that is so beautiful. Wait till you see the new heaven and the new earth, which will come with redemption. And believe that's the timing I believe in for that. We're not going to have black skies, I don't think. Things are going to be much nicer. I don't think we sleep anymore after redemption. That's it. They don't sleep up in heaven. It's down here that we got sleep. You know. Did they sleep in the Garden of Eden back then? I think so. I don't know, so I think so. Maybe not. I don't know. Did they sleep before the fall? I don't remember reading about them sleeping. I don't know. Probably started after. So, I sincerely hope you got something out of this, okay? So, could I ask you guys to do this? Yeah. Agree with me in prayer on this. I'm going to go out and ask you to pray for me and my wife and stuff, okay? And agree in prayer. So, my Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I ask you to provide peace, safety, protection, and joy for me and my wife. And I pray that we're happy, healthy, and whole. And the birds and the dogs are happy, healthy, and whole also, and we're all safe and secure. And I pray that you help with our finances, that they increase. We have needs, and I covered this with you, my Heavenly Father, and I pray you increase our finances in whatever way you want to. Please increase them. And I ask this, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and please agree with this, okay? We do need our finances to pick up. And pray for better videos. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for better live streams, better videos, better Telegram postings, better Twitter postings. I don't do a lot with Twitter. I put not much. I found Twitter to be a rough road to hoe. I put the videos up there every day. That's it. Elon Musk doesn't want anybody getting anywhere with Twitter, and she's going to spend a lot of money with him on advertising or something like that. It's a very punitive place for non-Satan bots that don't want to spend a lot of money. All right, so I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And I really hope I helped you. And you guys could write me with questions. My email address is in the bottom of the description box. It's Israel Giving with the number 7 at gmail.com. Israel Giving, one word, with the digit 7 at gmail.com. Also at the bottom of the description box is my PayPal for offerings. And I appreciate those of you that do give offerings. I really appreciate that. Sadly, it's a very tiny percentage of people that do. And this is, listener supported, you might say. Okay. And surprisingly, the channel's growing again. It is. Not that I can understand what I'm doing, that it's growing again, but it's growing again. So we don't know. Stuff with America could happen tomorrow and whatnot. It starts off with an attack on DC in Jeremiah, in Revelation 18, which could be from the Lord. Probably is. It could be from another source, but probably from the Lord. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. I did that already, and I'm out. Thanks, guys. Thank you, moderators. 3 hours today. Well, not that bad.